Good morning, people. Thank you for coming. We'll get started in just a second. Good to see your faces and picture. So before we get started, I would love to hear from you guys. If you have anything on your heart that you're grateful for this morning, I would love to know. Or this afternoon, Erin, represent. I'd love to know. So let us know what you're grateful for, if anything. Erin said, my strengths. Erin, you are a powerhouse in the making. I have no doubt. I love the way you show up, and I'm hearing some good things about you from Michael too. So he has nothing but praises. Okay, guys, we're going to get moving. Thank you for being here. I think this is an intimate day. We're rolling intimate style here, small and mighty. So good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. My name is Suzanne Buchanan. I am one half of Elevation Mindset. My partner in crime is Michael Danclefs, and he shares co-hosting these conversations we have every month. We love to show up and get real and have great conversations that matter. Every month we pick a different topic on personal growth and development, and we go all in. We try to bring you speakers that also are a bit fearless in where they go emotionally, because we know sometimes you have one chance to change somebody's lives, so we don't hold back. So today, kind of appropriately themed, we're going to be talking about gratitude. If you're in the United States, you know that, November is the month for Thanksgiving. And so we thought that this was a great time for us to dial in on something that you hear about a lot in the personal growth and development space, gratitude. And I hate to say it, but even in personal growth and development, sometimes things get a little trendy. And gratitude is one that you're going to hear about from almost everyone. But what is it? Why is it important? How it can impact your life? And how to get there when you're not feeling it because shit's going down is really important. And these are skills we feel like you can use. So I'm going to give you just a little background into our speakers today, and we'll get moving. But we're gonna just have a conversation, and we love for you to engage, to have questions that we can answer. And at the end, we're definitely going to open it up because that's really your time. So as I mentioned, my name is Suzanne Buchanan. I am a communications specialist. I have a background in mediation, corporate communications, and facilitating dialogues that matter. I love helping small businesses show up in their communications and impact lives. And you'll find that I'm joined by other change makers. My co-host, Michael Danclefs, is a life coach. He is also our tech support. He also is professionally managing the tech for a company as well. So he's got it going on. He knows what he's doing. And he's also in your Lifebook community, which has become really a powerful influence. So you'll definitely be hearing from him. And also Charleston Gaines is joining us today. I scooped Charleston up. I found him online, and I really like the way he rolls. He has a background in influencing people from government. He also has that background where, when you're in the business of affecting people's lives and you're in a position where you're the one standing in front of the room, you figure out a way to really make change. And Charleston has done that. He's an emotional intelligence coach. He's also a keynote speaker. So we're really happy to have you today. Charleston, thank you for being here. So let's get going, guys. No holding back. As we said, we're talking about gratitude. And I wanted to start off the conversation just at the very get, because we also, it just matters that we're setting the tone right for where we need to go. And so when we're looking at the practice of gratitude, which is so trendy, I want to start with you, Charleston. What is gratitude to you? Is it a habit, a ritual, a mindset? Are we talking like, is it a hack? I know you hear a little sarcasm with that because I'm all about the deep dive, but what is it to you, Charleston?
Well, for me, it's both a mindset and it's a habit, And so when I say it's a mindset, it's choosing gratitude, but it's a habit because what happens is you don't have to turn it on. You can just be in a state of gratitude consistently. And so what happens when you're in a state of gratitude consistently is you're able to really work through the hard times, just from your perspective, just from the way that you view life in general. And so that's what I mean by mindset. It influences your perspective and influence your approach to everyday events, the hard ones, the easy ones, the good ones, the bad ones. You have a gratitude mindset and you're able to just navigate those with positivity and optimism because you come from a state of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Michael, what about you? What do you think it is? What is it to you?
So it similarly is not just one thing for me either, is, kind of what Charleston was referring to is, for me, it's partly a practice. It's something that I repetitively do. So something that I do on an everyday basis to set the tone for my day. But it's also a mindset because I've done that practice that leads into whenever I do come up against good times or bad times, it's the tone that I bring into it, that I'm grateful for a lesson that can come from here. I'm grateful that I'm breathing today, and it may certainly be a hack in that way of that I can then turn the impression I bring of things through that lens of gratitude rather than from victimhood or from blame. I'd much rather use the lens of gratitude for me.
I like that. And that helps because you hear, I mean, guys, it's really trendy. You'll hear everyone talk about gratitude. So understanding what it is to each person is important. And it's great for us to understand the framework that it can be many things or it can be used in many ways. And I don't know if you caught this, what Charleston was getting at, of accessing a state consistently. So for you to access it consistently means it has to exist even when you're not in the mood. So what does that mean? This brings us kind of to the concept of vibration. And I love that because he kind of backed into it. He was very sly about that, right? But the truth is that it exists on a plane of its own. And it's up to us to learn to access it. You feel that? It's there. Even when we're feeling it, we're not feeling it. Even when things are total crap, there's some way to get there. And Michael was talking about, using it to access a higher vibration, sounded like. So that's important too. Okay. What do we have in the comments here? Yes, thank you for joining us. We love it. We're so grateful you're here, guys. So then if it's there and if it's possible, does that mean it's always been a part of your life, guys? Like, were you born knowing that you have this like golden vibration plane that you can access? What was that like? And what were you like before, if you weren't born this way? Michael, what about you?
So I would say that I've had a touch and go relationship with gratitude, certainly in my younger years. In that I was more oblivious to things, and at the same time I've always kind of been accused of being an optimist. So and they certainly work together really well. But I would say that it's needed some work and some nurturing in order to kind of bring it out. And I would say that just in the last few years, in the Mind Valley community, many people know about the 6-phase meditation. And one of the segments of that is gratitude, one of those phases. And that kind of up-leveled my game around that. In general, I am grateful. And in probably the last 4 years or so, I have had a gratitude practice. But before that, it was more unconscious, I think, or even kind of out of conscious. So it's been just in the last few years that I've really intentionally started using it.
Got it. Charleston, what about you? Was it always there?
So I believe that I believe gratitude is always there. You're born with it, but you don't realize that. And what I mean by that is, even what you said before about vibrations, these things happen whether you know it or not. So even when you were an infant and you were crying and you were attended to by your caregiver, your body reacted in a way that gratitude allows you to react in a sense of what happens in your brain, what happens in your body, what happens in your breath. So that was happening even when you were a baby. And then what happens to so many of us is life happens, right? What happened when you were 2, when you were 7, when you were 13? And so even growing up, you think about what are you grateful for or who are you grateful for? And that's where we have a lot of issues. Like, you're grateful for your parents, but then there are things your parents do to you that you're not grateful in the moment. And so an example for me, for example, was I was taking karate. I think I was about 8 years old. And we have like open sparring, right? Where you just get a dozen people in a room, they're all sparring each other. And there's this girl in there who was, in the same elementary school as me. And she kicked me in the groin. And so I was out of commission. My dad was so embarrassed by that. In his mind, was this in the 80s, he was like, I can't believe my son got beat up by a girl. Forget that she'd been practicing for a year longer than me. She was just better than me. Let's forget that, right? And so then on the way home, he pulls over, gets in the back seat and starts like beating on me. And it's like, I love my dad and I'm grateful for my dad, but in that instant, it's like I'm not grateful for whatever lesson he's trying to teach me. And so then as we grow, we have all of these different areas of our lives where it's like, what is gratitude? What does it mean? And then going back to what Michael said about making it an intentional practice. So instead of saying, what does gratitude mean? You decide what gratitude means. You decide to look back on the positive things in your life. Look at the positive interactions with people in your life instead of focusing on the negative. And then you can be accused of being an optimist because you're grateful.
Guys, we all have these life experiences that suck. We all have had those times, and the bad ones stick with you. They burn a little mark, don't they? And it's up to us to really figure out if we're holding on to them in a way that's going to hold us back. And we're going to talk a little later about how to access gratitude in the middle of that, because that's really when it matters most, doesn't it? And if we can't then maybe soon after. I don't know. We'll talk about that. As for me personally, I always tell people I have a cheat sheet built in, a little gratitude cheat sheet built in, because I was born with a rare and potentially fatal blood disease. And some people with my blood disease don't make it to my age. People have died younger than I. And some people are very, very sick with the disease I have. And I'm living an amazing life. There's nothing like being the one that's, I've woken up from a coma and saw my family fly in to say goodbye to me. And I wake up and I'm like, holy shit, I'm not going anywhere, guys. So I'm grateful for every day I'm here. I'm always grateful for my family. And let me tell you guys, my family drama is up there with the Jerry Springer show sometimes. Like, I can hang. So it can be crazy, but I love these crazy people. And I'm so grateful to be here. And so I have that cheat sheet built in, but not everyone does. And it's harder for some people to access it. My father, for example, oh my gosh, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I think he's from another orchard, because he wakes up and he can cuss in the morning and complain about he's 84 years old and he's achy and whatever. And I think he goes to the list every morning. And I'm just like in shock, because I am so happy to be here in this beautifully imperfect body that gets to experience this amazing life and share mornings with you. I love that you're here. Thank you. And so learning to access it is not always easy, guys. For me, like I said, I ask other people if they were born being grateful, because I do have that total cheat sheet. But beyond that, I have to ask you guys, like, was there something specific that happened to you, or a point in your life where you kind of flipped, or something was not right and it brought you closer to understanding that you needed something like gratitude, or that it was missing for you? Charleston, what about you?
Yeah, definitely for me, I was so the way that I frame it, the way that I choose to look at it, is that I was given a new lease on life that I didn't deserve, I didn't earn, right? A lot of times good things happen to us, or great things, and we think about, do we deserve it? And for me, there's no self-judgment. I'm just grateful. And so for what that is for me is that my mother she was a kidney transplant patient after being on dialysis for 12 years. The average person on dialysis passes away after 6.5. But my mom made it for 12, then got a kidney transplant. I saw how she managed her life. I was watching her manage her life while my kidneys were failing. She passed away in August of 2019. In October, I got on the kidney transplant list for the VA. In February, I got on the kidney transplant list for Walter Reed. So this is February, it's right around Valentine's Day, 2020. March 30th, 2020 would have been my mom's 67th birthday. I got a new kidney. So here's what I'm telling you. I never went on dialysis, and I was on the transplant wait list for 6 weeks. It makes no sense, and it would be absurd if I was not grateful.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even make sense. And so,
that was dropped in your lap.
yes. And like I said, I didn't earn that. I didn't go fill out any forms to go work for it. It was, and here's the thing is that because I'm generally healthy overall, besides my kidneys, they gave me a damaged kidney, which is why other people on the wait list couldn't get it, because they were in worse health overall.
Oh.
So I was fortunate that this individual's kidney was damaged in the trauma. See, I mean, the list can go on. I'll stop there, but there's
Yes.
so many things to be grateful for in this one event, let
Mm.
alone the multiple decades I've been alive. And there's so many other things to be grateful for.
Guys, it's almost like a dam that breaks or some kind of lens that just breaks. And suddenly you see all the gifts. And that's what I'm hearing from you, Charleston. Thank you so much for sharing that. Michael, what about you? Was there like, was there a breaking point or something that happened that kind of brought you here?
About this is I was married for about 6.5 years, and in the beginning it was a great relationship, but I think that breaking point for me was after that marriage ended, after the divorce was done. And I didn't notice this in me as I became, like I said, normally I'm the optimist, but I became the angry person stomping around, being a clumsy bull in a china shop. And the breaking point for me was whenever my daughter said, when we were visiting my sister for Christmas, is, "This is the dad I remember," because laughing and joking and having a good time again. And I think that for me was that, okay, I need to listen to this more often. I don't want to be the frog in the slow boiling water anymore. That I need to be aware of this and really reconnecting with those core values of who I am. But it took her noticing at 14, giving that insight to me as a 14-year-old. It's like, okay, got it. So I've been blind for a really long time. Thank you for helping me see, now that things are dissolved, that this really is the core of who I am.
It's important. We all get influenced, and it's so important for us to look after our emotional health. And thank goodness you had that, beautiful soul to just say, that wasn't you, this is you. So then, like, okay, so the lens breaks and the world is amazing and you feel gratitude all the time. Is that how it is? Like, it's magic and then you feel grateful all the time? Or do you still manage to hit reality? Michael, what about you?
But earlier it's the idea of, yes, events still are going to come up that suck. There's going to be tough moments you have to get through. But the way that I like to see gratitude is shifting the perspective just a little bit. So that thing that looks like an epic failure now looks like a simple loss. Something that's a simple loss now is something that is a wash. Something that was a wash before is, there's a lesson in this. It's just a little bit of a degree off. So things that could have been catastrophic in the past and brought the whole house down, it takes the edge off for that. It also, for me, allows me to be open to the idea that there's a lesson here, because I am grateful for what I'm going through. It may be difficult in the moment to get there.
That's where it's going to go.
Though it's, being that this is a regular practice for me at this point, it is something that, it's not that I'm going to go out and lift up the car, but without having worked out for the last 2 years. So it is similar to a muscle. It is a skill that has helped kind of shift that slowly over time. And it's like upping the notch a little bit more the more I practice it. So now those moments that used to really suck now only kind of suck. Or those moments that were really difficult and insurpassable are now, I'm open to passing through them or being less impacted by them.
So guys, I don't know if you're getting this, but I'm getting this kind of Zen slow down moment where, because Michael's practiced this for a while, he can slow down his emotions and that instinctual triggered reaction that so many of us get. So that's kind of a little ninja Zen move. there, which is powerful, but we're not all there. And I don't know about you, but Charleston, are you like grateful for all your problems you have now? Are you like, whoopee, another problem? I can't wait to grow.
For me, I think about, I think about what Michael said, just the analogy of lifting weights and the practicing, right? And so then what happens is if you've been working out and then you come across a challenge, you don't all of a sudden get weaker. If you've been practicing gratitude for a while and it's part of who you are, you train your brain with positivity and optimism. And so you're unable to completely shut that down. Right. And so then what happens when the bad things happen, when the tragedies happen, you're not so consumed that you're unable to see a bigger picture. You're unable to see what's happening outside of that. See, you can't go there when you've been practicing gratitude. So yeah, you can be overwhelmed. Yeah, it's a tragedy. You can suffer real grief where you are, in the pits of despair for a couple of weeks. But because you've been practicing gratitude, there's almost like a buffer, almost like a soft landing where you are able to land on your back and you still have the ability to look up.
Guys, I think it's super okay for you to say that something sucks in the moment. I think it's okay to react in the moment if you need to react. I mean, we're human and some stuff sucks. So don't ever feel like this is the kumbaya show. It's not. And these guys are practiced at this. Maybe it's my inner redhead, right? None of us are perfect with this. And well, I love what both of them said because it gives us a vision of the path. No matter where you are on that path, it's okay. But there is something in this for you. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to share. But, when you're in the midst of tragedy, calamity, a Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events day where everything goes wrong that can, from the traffic ticket to getting fired at work to your car breaking down on the way home. Like, are you feeling grateful then? Do you have a hack, a trick or something that you access right there? Or do you embrace the suck for a minute till you can get there? What do you guys do? Charleston, what about you? You're a good military background. Tell us.
Well, I'll say for some of the examples that you gave, like if I were to get a traffic ticket or something like that, to me, that's not a tragedy. And so, yeah, it sucks. And I can admit it sucks, but I don't have to be overwhelmed by it. Like, this sucks, but I'll be okay. But when it's more than that, when it's really tragic, when it really, really hurts deep down inside, I know that I have to embrace that, right? Because gratitude isn't a tool to fight the grief, because sometimes the grief is warranted. So I want to, because it hurts. So I'm not going to deny that it hurts. I'm going to let the grief run its course. But letting the grief run its course is different than letting the grief consume and take over my life. It's two different things.
Yes.
And so as the grief begins to subside, I still have the ability to look at the big picture and be grateful because I've been practicing that. But I'm not going to say I'm not supposed to hurt, right? I tell people all the time, I talk to my clients when they're hurting, and I tell them you have to fully feel the emotion to heal from the emotion. We don't want to let it linger.
I love that. Definitely. And that helps us. Like, it's okay. We're okay with what we feel. Don't stay there, guys. Don't stay in the suck. Don't stay in the angst. Don't stay in anxiety. Don't stay in the panic. you were made for this. You've got this. So, we hear this talked about a lot, and it's a very trendy topic. And I want to know, Michael, like, you got this Jedi background. What do you do when you're in the moment and need to shift it? Because what you just said a few minutes before was like, I've been doing this so long. I'm like that. But really, like, you never find yourself in a state of mind where you feel like you need to shift it?
So it's not so much that I don't find myself in a state there. It's more a matter of, like, even as I said earlier, it's bringing the intention to it. And that's really kind of the focus that I've been working on in the last several years, is to be aware. I mean, when you're talking about Jedi mind tricks, it's about, being aware of something and intentionally setting a direction you want to go and go there.
So
As
what
an
do you do
example,
though in that moment?
for me, it's a slowdown for me. And this, when I was a kid, I went over the handlebars while riding a bike, and life didn't slow down. I was on the bike, and the next minute I'm on my back looking at the sky, not remembering it. So this is kind of more the practice, is slow down and be aware of what's going on. A friend of mine passed away in August from COVID.
Mm.
And that was one of those moments of suck. Yes, it's like he's about the same age as I am, about the same level of health as I am.
Mm.
And it's like I had to go through that. I was off for 4 or 5 days, wasn't really productive, but I didn't stay there. So I mean, where this kind of comes up is that it's like, okay, I can sit in this, kind of like what Charleston was saying, is that I can be aware of this. Grief is going to be there. For me, it's the idea of gaining focus to knowledge to wisdom. So if I focus on something, there's something to learn there. So from his experience, what can I take from it? Because I've had enough hard lessons on my own. I now want to observe how other people are going through stuff and learn from it, and then take that into wisdom of my own as I practice it. So if that's the arc that I'm going to do, gratitude needs to come into this place of, I have an example of a way that something can happen. What can I learn from that? So with
Right,
him
but
passing,
that's a slow, methodical, reflective process. But I'm talking about when you're in the moment and you need to pluck your energy, your vibration, and reset that. Is there something that you do, or you just let it ride for that moment and then you do the reflective process over time?
I generally start with, what can I learn from this? What can I
Right in the middle of it, you ask that question.
in the middle of that, it's twofold. Is, what can I learn from this? And how
Mm-hmm.
can I best serve through this?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help? Because my friend's wife was certainly in pain. And it's like, so how can I show up to serve her as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because that's where I gain value, is that I can, knowing that I can be there for her as well. And at the same time, as I also had people in my corner who are there for me. So, and though it's kind of picking those things out of what I can be grateful for in that moment, is I do have a circle of people who really care about me that I can bring this to.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, as I went to a men's team meeting out of the blue, I hadn't been to one in a few months, to go out and grieve and put a stone on a cairn for this person and set out their name, to let go of some of that energy. And the gratitude comes in, is that I have this resource, that I have a place where I can express this. 5 or 6 years ago, I wouldn't have given myself the space to express it. It was all bottled up instead. And that turned me into that angry person. So at this point now, it's a matter of tapping into the resources that I have and being grateful that they're there.
Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes that requires us to have a background of faith in who we are and why we're here. And I think that when you have that strong foundation, that's easier. That process is easier to do because you're digging back into your baseline, your root template. And I think that that's something powerful to do. I don't think everyone is that confident in who they are and may not have that ability to draw on those resources. So like Charleston, if somebody came to you and they said, we want to make this real, we don't feel, this is like something people talk about, we don't feel it. What would you say to them? How do they begin to prepare to access something like gratitude in their life?
Well, I think, one thing you said before was how gratitude is kind of becoming trendy, right? And so a lot of people don't fully grasp exactly what we're talking about, because when you fully grasp what it is, you realize it's simple. It's not something that you have to spend your life preparing for. It's just take action now. And so a couple of things that I tell people is first of all, one thing that's been, I think someone mentioned it in the chat as well, is in the evening before you go to bed, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And I tell people 3 things that you're grateful for, or 3 good things that happened in the last 24 hours. Because I don't want you writing, I'm grateful I woke up this morning every single night. It needs to be a little deeper for you. And so then you just take action, and then you realize over time how that impacts your perspective, the way that you approach the day. It even impacts your sleep, because when you do that before going to bed, you turn off your stress response so that you can get better quality sleep. And then what I tell people is to share that gratitude with others. You can do that in conversation. I can say, like, for example, some of the things that Michael has spoken about, like talking about your daughter, I can ask you, like, hey, I know you and your daughter had this plan for the weekend. How did that go? And I get you to intentionally cultivate positive emotions.
Yeah.
And then we are grateful in this moment together. And so you don't need a whole lot of science and background knowledge to do those couple things. You just take action.
I love that. And Jenny, I was looking at your comment also from before, and this also goes into play here. You can be the thermometer, or you can be the thermostat and set the room. You have the opportunity to influence people by your energy, your vibration, your sense of gratitude. And let me tell you, or I should say, I already know this because I can feel it from you. I know each one of you can feel me. I know when I vibrate high. And I don't want you to think that you are any less powerful. You can set the room. You can set your community. You can set your country. We all have that power to really set the tone, set the vibration, and others around us will rise. You have that power. And I love these conversations, because what other way can we remind ourselves and each other that we're here for a reason, and that we have the ability to change lives every single day. So when it comes to that practice, Michael, you're actually coaching people. So like when it comes to gratitude, what's a starting point? What's the jump off point? After which, is there one after which so much more is possible?
So with my coaching practice, with each session that we have, that's where I tend to start. It's one of my opening questions is, what are you grateful for in this moment right now? So, and it starts by that curiosity, is what can I find to be grateful here? And as Charleston said, I'm grateful to be alive is a good place to start. And it doesn't need to be this earth-shattering thing that I'm grateful for either. Sometimes it is, I'm grateful that I've got a warm cup of warm beverage in my hand because my hands are cold, and that is where it can start. And with the small things that are really big things, because there really is no difference in the size of these things, it's still sharing that gratitude. It starts the momentum. It starts us moving towards that. So if it is at the end of your day, which is a good way to reset your brain, like Charleston was talking about, for me, I do it first thing in the morning to set the tone for the rest of my day. Everyone finding the right practice that works for you is the important piece. Find a spot in your day to be grateful and share it in some way. So that's another part of my practice, like what Charleston was talking about, is sharing a gratitude with someone else. I send that to someone else so that I'm putting it out to the universe, not rattling just in my head, but I'm actually doing that with another person. And then the bonus for me is taking gratitude. I'm grateful for this, but also similar to what Charleston talked about is appreciation, which is the act of telling someone else about what you're grateful about for them.
Mhm.
And that levels up both of us. So
I love that. Okay, I'm so curious, guys. I'm going to totally break rank completely. I want to hear from all of you that are attending. What is like something super small that you just are so grateful for, that it's totally ridiculously small, but you absolutely love? Like whether it's your favorite mug, whatever. Like when he was talking, I was like, oh my God, my seat heaters in my car. Like it's so stupid, but I love them. And it's cold out. And I even use it like after I work out. So that's my silly, stupid one. And always puppy love. What's something you're super grateful for that's even a small thing? See? Oh my gosh, warm, fuzzy socks. Yes, I'm a sock girl. Jenny, for real. Like good socks. Oh my gosh, what else, guys? And you can turn on your mic if you want. I don't care.
Right. I got something actually.
Yes.
So it is actually a small note my sister gave to me, like on a post-it thingy.
Oh.
And it just says, smile right now. And it's so great because I have it in my like Kindle ebook reader. And I'm super addicted to like reading my book right now. So I open it like 3 times a day, which is amazing. And I always see that note. And it just makes a day. And it's like something that's like an automatic habit kind of, because
Yes.
it's there and you always do it. And that's
I love that. And like, by the way, what Aaron said is like a total hack, by the way. Make things convenient for you that bring you those reminders of positivity. Wear your darn cozy socks every day if that makes you happy. But putting things in a place where it's a frequent reminder is a great idea. Anyone else got one? We'd love to hear from you. I also want you to know that the little things can yield big vibration. It's the energy that comes from you. And sometimes the little things are the best way to start. So that was just where that thought came from. Michael, what about you? What's a little thing?
So in the men's team circle, we talk a lot about commitment. And in my coaching practice, it's a lot about commitment. So it was about probably 18 months ago or so, I opened up a fortune cookie, and I still have the fortune. In fact, it's taped to my monitor right there. And it says, commitment is what makes a promise into reality. It's just those little moments, because it's a word I use a lot. And it's like, okay, this makes it true for me.
When the universe talks back, it can even talk through a cookie. I love that one. I love that one. Charleston, what about you? What's something little?
So here's something that my kids taught me, and it actually alleviates so much stress in your life. I think you all should apply it. Your socks don't have to match. It's simple as that. Like, nobody cares. So just grab some and go. That alleviates so much stress.
Oh my gosh. I honestly think like that would drive me crazy. Like I go crazy if somebody's wearing polka dots and plaid together. Like I need symmetry. It hurts. So for me, I think I would just like, I don't know, my circuits would fry a little bit, but I think I should do that for therapy, or somebody could do that to torture me probably too. I love it. Oh, that's great. And Arturas, I saw your comments in the grocery store and see that I will manage to purchase groceries for my family for a week. And that's beautiful. So providing for your family, being able to show up, like that's, by the way, my friend, that's a big thing. That's not even little. Groceries may seem small, but that's a big deal. So that's a beautiful share. Fur babies for sure. Oh my gosh, yes. I love it, guys. You know, I asked that for another reason, is because also sometimes when everything is wrong, it's the little things that can help shift you. And Michael went there, but I wanted you to see how even silly it could be. And that's okay. Whatever it is that gives you that little shift, I think it's really important. So is there anything, Charleston, Michael, that you are having trouble with feeling grateful for? Is there like something that is just irritating you, that is repeated, or something in life that you just are struggling with when it comes to gratitude? If you guys all say you're perfect, I'm gonna know.
I'll say for me, it's about just growing my business. So there's a couple different perspectives on this. And the first one is when you look at it and struggling with when there's times where, maybe you have certain events and you don't get the results that you want, things like that. And it's frustrating. You put all this preparation into it. And then there's a part of you that just has to remind yourself, yeah, this is not really a tragedy. Like, let me not act like this is so horrible. Reminds me of something Dr. Laurie Santos said. She's a positive psychology instructor at Yale University, and she was talking about the idea that how many of us have a mind-blowing life. And I continually remind myself of this. There are literally billions of people in the world who would say that my life is a mind-blowing life. And it's like they can't do what I do in the morning. And I'm talking about waking up after sleeping on a mattress, hugging my daughter, brushing my teeth, access to clean water. And so you're going to take it for granted to some degree because you've had that your entire life. But pause for a moment and just think, there are literally billions of people who would think that my life is mind-blowing. And that thought is what enables me to stop whining and complaining because I didn't have as many signups or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that, enables me to choose my perspective, really.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Michael, what about you?
I think mine is kind of in a similar vein to Charleston. Is there's like, I love coaching. I love actually being in the mix with someone and helping them find insight in their life. But the entrepreneur side, the business building side, the marketing side, the content creation, all of those pieces is the things that in moments it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I in this when I want to be doing coaching? And instead there's all this other stuff that I keep hearing I need to do in order to be a better business person. So I think that's the thing that I'm struggling finding the gratitude for. And it as much feels like it doesn't feel like it's my choice in some ways. So I think that may be part of the triggering for that, is that you have to do this because this is the way that businesses work. I see so many others that have embraced that and they're good at it. Awesome. Good for you. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's others who don't. They take a different tact. So I'm seeking mentors and guides and teachers that can help me take a slightly different path to get there. Not that I'm not willing to do hard work, but at the same time, I feel if I'm going to be an exceptional coach, I need to be coaching exceptionally and taking exceptional steps.
Mhm.
Everyone else is doing marketing in exactly the same way. I'm going to be in there with the average of everyone else.
Guys, this is real stuff when it gets gritty and uncertain and clear. Like, you know, the good news is if you don't know what you're doing, no one else does either. That's the good news. You're so not alone. The bad news is that sometimes it can be really frustrating and feel like a really long path. I think several of us in here are entrepreneurs of various levels, and I totally feel that. For me, I think when I can't feel, I can feel compassion for a lot of people, but when I have a hard time accessing my empathy because I'm an empath, I know there's something up that I'm having trouble feeling grateful for. And I have a half sister that tried to commit suicide for the second time a week, 2 weeks ago now. And she's been in the ICU for 9 days and just got out just a day or two ago. And she's still in the hospital. But when I think about, from my background, how hard I work to live, to just show up and do what everyone else does, let alone build the life of my dreams. I work hard because I told you guys about that blood disease. It's not easy. So when I think about somebody who just doesn't want to be here, whew, lots of prayers and energy coming that way. And that's really all I can do. But that would be, for me, a current point of frustration. And I just feel sad for her that she doesn't want all this amazing things that I see. So that would be my point of frustration. And what helps me with that is very simply, my default is love. And I love others often when they're having trouble loving themselves. That's one of my strengths. And so that's all I can do for now. And, you know, her path is her own. I can only be there as much as I can. But that would be my, right now, the area I'm struggling with when it comes to gratitude. So with this, I want us to shift to open it up. I want us to really get into conversation about this. And I want to ask you guys, is there one area of your life that you're trying to cultivate or have difficulty accessing gratitude in? You know, we wanted to kind of set the example and be real with you, because this is your time. And we want you to know we're human beings and all of us are navigating through this. So where are you at? We'd love to hear from you. And Charleston and Michael, you're welcome to speak as well.
I'll say one issue that I'm having, for me is my oldest. My son is 19. He's about to join the Air Force. And I guess an issue for me is we're not as close as I would like to be. And he's 19. I'm done raising him. You know what I mean? And so it's like, when you practice gratitude, I can be grateful for, like, we've had a ton of memories, right? Lots of good times, but I'm talking about that closeness, right? Like, or if he has issues, he has problems, there's something emotional, he's not going to come to me. Like, we don't have that kind of connection. But then I can be grateful that he's completely open with my wife, that they have that connection. And I'm grateful that he's doing something like joining the military and he has a path forward. And so while I feel disconnected to some degree, and I'm not happy about that, and I think there's a lot of times in life where the things we're not happy about, we can look back and see what should I have done differently and things like that. And so gratitude actually enables me to have the mindset of not beating myself up and not sitting in regret and just say, okay, I'm glad we got this far. He's a great kid. He might have been a great kid even without me, who knows, but I'm grateful for that. And so I'm just going to like leave it at that instead of fighting it within myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, just know it's never too late. It's never too late for that. And I'm sure that, believe it or not, intentions are always seen. It'll happen. Trust that he came from good stock and he's going to see those intentions. You're going to get a payoff. You may have to wait for it because kids are stubborn, for sure, but you're going to get a payoff. Yeah. Anyone else?
I guess that's all right. I quickly raised my hand, but I guess it's all right if I just unmute myself, right? Yeah, great. So I think something that relates a bit to what Charleston said is also that comes from my insight that everyone walks their own path, kind of, right? And I'm on my path, my friends are on their path, my family is on their path. And I want to pick on the family part because usually our family or my family is so close to me that I'm sometimes like, well, I have so much like by now like acquired, especially like productivity wise and habits and stuff like that. And then all these things that then I see sometimes all these things that they could be doing and are doing wrong that I'm easily doing, and that's like, right, like super easy, right? Even though they're walking their path and I'm walking my path, and then I just have to disconnect a bit this attachment, kind of just being happy for myself. And that was my insight, which is also right now like the theme of where I'm living from, of this leading by example, showing that it's possible. And then my grandma came to me and she's, oh, Aaron, you're doing so many great things. And by now I offered her like a coaching, and we had our 6th session together, and she's making so much progress. It's crazy. And she's now so motivated, and she kind of right now leads by example. And then slowly but surely the whole family is getting there, but not through me like constantly pushing them, and not like that doesn't show like gratitude, but rather like accepting and leading and saying, okay, it's your path and I'm grateful for that. And then that jumps over because of the vibration kind of that we also talked about, right? And yeah, that is a great thing. But still a great hurdle, because you really have to see that and be grateful just for where they are, who they are, that you sometimes think, okay, your path is like, it's like what works for you works for them right now. But it's not the case. And that is so valuable to really understand, I feel like.
What a life lesson in patience that you never wanted. And it's so hard, but I love that, if you're able to step back, believe it or not, guys, I read this somewhere and it just hit so hard. One of the greatest gifts you can give others is your expectation that people rise when there's a space between where they are and where you see. And sometimes you have to step back to create that space so that they can get there. And that's kind of what you were talking about, Aaron, is, giving them the space so that they make that journey, but it sounds like you're doing a little influencing along the way, which is awesome too. So you're wasting no time. I love that, guys. Good morning, Gerald. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic. I'm extraordinarily remiss because I apparently cannot tell time.
That's okay. Moving on.
But I am doing fantastic. And I love the flow, the energy of this conversation. It is outstanding. And this is one of my favorite topics. And Aaron, those frames and those glasses are killing the game, sir. You are crushing it, sir. Kudos to you, my friend.
Great to see you. Anyone else, like, what's an area that you're struggling to have gratitude in? You know, it is the season. We're all supposed to all be happy, right? Through New Year's. Mandatory. Anything else anyone wants to share?
Well, I will pop in and I will say probably the only place that I struggle the most to have gratitude in is with me, introspectively. I typically can be very grateful for the spaces and the places and the people and even the problems in my life. Once you practice this as a way of life, it's easy to be grateful for, you know, the things that you have that you see others don't, the people that you have that you don't, that the people that you have that actually sow into your life, or your profession. It's easy to enumerate those things and be grateful for those things. But typically, it's difficult for me to be grateful for me and who I am, to be grateful for how I move in the world, to be grateful for the individual gifts and talents that I bring to this planet and to every space that I'm in. Because I typically see others, because our eyes don't look inside, our eyes look out. So that's typically our focus. And, you know, just like most predators, our eyes are frontward facing. So we see what's in front of us. So that's our typical move. And that's what I struggle with. I have to make a very marked effort to be grateful for me, to be grateful for who I am to others, and to be grateful for how I show up. So that's my struggle.
Gerald shows up and gets real, guys. So that hits home for a lot of us, doesn't it? We're our own worst critic, our own worst enemy. What if we were our own best champion? How much different would our lives be? We all need that. And you know what that brings me back to, thank you, Gerald, for sharing that, is something that Charleston alluded to, something that Michael has alluded to. When it comes to gratitude, there's a secret ingredient that people don't talk about, and that's grace. That is when Charleston talked about experiencing a windfall of good luck that he could have never paid for, that he did not deserve through actions that, you know, he made. This was something that the universe, that God, that whatever forces you believe in, bestowed upon him and extended his life, literally. A new kidney? Are you kidding me? That's pretty amazing. For me, just, you know, I tell you about my cheat sheet with my health. I'll never forget waking up and I had scores of doctors around me pretty much at all times. And one team came in when I just woke up from the coma. And one of them actually said, you better thank God you're alive, because we had done all we can do. I wasn't aware. He said, we gave you 3% chance that you'd still be here. That's grace. I was going to this church at the time, and there were 2 pastors that came and prayed over my body. You know, my family was like, they would have called in anything. If the Easter Bunny had healing powers, he would have been there. So these 2 pastors came in, and one was known to have a healing touch, and they prayed over my body and left, and they looked at each other and they said, I don't know. I didn't feel anything. And when I showed up, I found them in church. I heard the story. I found them in church. I introduced myself. The man sat down on the floor. He was shocked. He wasn't sure that his prayers went anywhere. So grace, guys. Grace is a missing ingredient. And Gerald, you didn't talk about it, but I know you know something about grace. I know you know about the gift of being here. And I encourage all of us to give ourselves the grace we need, the grace we deserve, because we were all born for this. And that's really what's on my heart, guys. What else you got? Jenny, I saw your comment about losing your voice when trying to gain your voice and speak out about important things. That exact thing has happened to me, and I was mute for like a week. That energy's breaking loose. Anyone else? Michael, Charleston.
Just in many ways, and it may sound trite, but I'm grateful that we have this forum to talk about this. The people who show up, and an opportunity to share a perspective. And all of us have our own perspective, and I'm hoping that those who've had a chance to go on this journey with us got something positive out of it. But that's our intent here, is really to have deep conversations about what it feels like boots on the ground or in real life versus virtually. You know, is connecting with this on a regular basis for me has had an impact to keep my spirits higher, to have people receive me in a different way, and in the way that is truer to who I am. So I appreciate all of you for being here.
Absolutely. And guys, if we were to offer one takeaway, that plane, that energy vibration field of gratitude is always here. How do you find it? How do you tap into it? How do you access it? That's really the question here, is what are the tips, tricks, hacks, tools that we talk about? And I think Arturus, Michael, I don't know if you saw it before in the chat, he was mentioning an app that really was helping him. So guys, there's so many ways to do this. We love that you're here, and we are grateful for this forum. We're grateful for your souls showing up on a Saturday. And I want to know, I want to know that you have an amazing weekend, guys. I want to be confident in that, and that we send you off with like this beautiful energy into the world. If this has been a good conversation for you, we want you to show up with us next month, because we're talking about gifts. It is the season. And you go from gratitude to gifts. Well, how can you go wrong? So we want to send you into the new year on a high vibe, all month long. So stay tuned with us. We love you guys. Our tourists, great to be here. We saw people from Iceland. Is the tiger speaking? What are you pointing to, Michael? Oh, Aaron, hi. Come back.
I didn't know whether you want to wrap it up or
You can bring it on.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that confused me right now. Let me quickly think. Yeah, in that I was connecting to something you started on very early on with your story, right? And what also Charleston said. And these are like life events that really, it's like these Kensho moments that Vishen Lakiani talks about, right? Like pain, growth through pain, right? But then I was thinking, I didn't have so many moments in my life like this before. And I was thinking whether you could like kind of advance engineer it to a certain extent, because I tried like a death meditation once, and it was like just like an example what you could do, and it was very, very powerful because it really got me into this gratitude mode, as weird as it may seem at first, and really showed me that, I mean, my time is important, yes, my energy is important, yes, but the depth of my experience is very crucial as well. And that's something that I'm also, of course, grateful for. But I was thinking whether you could, whether you have any insights in like advanced engineering something where you could take that and fuel your present moment with like that mindset more, I would say, that you don't get like sidetracked by all the things so easily.
Yeah, I have a thought on that. Michael, you want to talk too?
Had some thoughts about that. Is I similarly for a long time didn't have many of those major Kensho moments, and I created one for myself instead. So
Don't do that,
careful
Aaron.
for what you
Don't
ask
do that.
for. Be careful what you ask for. But I do like the idea of using death as your guide. It's actually one of the things that they talk about in the Toltec studies of
Just
what
don't
is
get
your
too
legacy, what's going to be on your tombstone, and having that idea being what are you going to leave, what's the, as you said, the depth of your experience, who are you going to impact, how are you going to impact the world. And it is a way to kind of trigger that idea, as long as, once again, just like we're talking about in those suck moments, is that you don't stay there where you actually trigger death because you're stuck there. So that's just been kind of my experience.
Yes, Aaron, please don't create it. You don't want that. And look at Gerald. Gerald's like, no, I've been there. Don't. And like I said, I had the cheat sheet built in, but you know what? What I know others have done very well to engineer this is to access their empathy center. And if you can find a cause, a situation, etc., that's powerful enough, it's your ability to dial into it, turn it up, access that power from it, but you got to shut it off as well. So Gary Vee talks about like imagining the death of his family, which I think is like hello dark, but he accesses it daily. And I'm like, that's too dark for me, but that's fine. It works for him, and he is a super grateful guy, that's for sure. For others, I think it's gonna happen a little bit more through life experience. Thank goodness it doesn't have to be your own situation. And you can see the people in here who've been through it. They're like, please turn the other way. So for me, there's so many, I intentionally, like you, Aaron, at a young age, I exposed myself to many different causes and things that would actually heighten, and it did have the effect you're talking about, kind of reverse engineer it and let me to dial in. I would go and volunteer at soup kitchens. I would find the different causes to orient myself in, and I was younger than I think 21 at the time. So I was hyper exposing myself, and I continued to do that actually throughout my young career. How do you think a single American female ended up living in Pakistan? I went there with no job, and I was determined to find the work there and to dive in there. So actually immersion is a great way. If you can access it remotely, fantastic. If not, take some risk and dive in. The world is yours, my friend.
Hey, Aaron, Suzanne, can I chime in right there?
Yeah.
Aaron, I have a name for that. I've coined a name for that because I'm a guy and I have to name everything. It's just who I am. I'm sorry, I have to name. I call them gratitude thermals. That's what I call them, gratitude thermals. And if you know anything about thermals, thermals are strong currents of warm air that birds actually use to fly long distances without expending a lot of energy. So what swallows and birds that travel, animals of flight that travel long distances, they will expend a lot of energy to get at a certain altitude. And then what they'll do is find a thermal, and they will coast in that thermal. And when it's time for them to rest or eat, they'll fall out of that thermal and they'll do whatever they need to do. And when they want to travel a long distance again, they'll go up and find a thermal. That's what I call it, a gratitude thermal. As in, I'm familiar with Gary Vee, that's his thermal. He will find that thermal to take him long distances toward his goal, to get deep into that focus. I have some personal experience in that. Don't do what I did. Do not try this at home, folks. But I literally came to the point in my life, being a suicide survivor 3 times. I came to the point in my life where I decided, if I can't die well, I'm going to live exceptionally. And that became my moniker for my life. Man, I literally was like on the highway in Atlanta, screaming up at the skies, like, God, if you won't let me die well, I'm going to live well. In a kind of arrogant way, but that's where I went with it. And that's been the moniker for my life. So that's my thermal, in the sense that it is the vow that I made to myself. Because if I'm going to take up space on this rock, then I'm going to do it exceptionally. And that's my thermal. And everybody has different ones. And what you were talking about, the death meditation, to reverse engineer that back, to get your thermal, to find it. I encourage people, don't find one, find 4, find 3 or 4, because we are emotional creatures with different emotional colors. And someday, one thermal may not actually take us the direction we want to go. So we need to have several different arrows in our quiver, and we need to have several different off-ramps to different thermals to take us where we want to go, because we are ultimately the architect of our destination. But how we get there is the decisions that we make along the way. So I encourage you,
That's
dig into that
awesome.
butter.
And Aaron, I love that you asked that, because that was what I was trying to get to from our speakers when I said, how do we access this? How do we access it in the middle of whatever? And you asked the perfect question of how to engineer it. And those thermals are it. Do not find just one, find several. Just a similar example, I do morning meditations. Some days, some of them don't hit me at all. Like, I've got some grocery list in my mind, or who knows where my mind is, but that's not it. But it's up to me. I have several ones to choose from that I know hit the right spot at different times. So make sure you're finding the right tools for you. Or some days it's not meditation. Sometimes it'll end up to be my yoga practice that gets me there. So anyway, that was just what I wanted to add to that. Anything else from anyone? This is your time.
I guess we can all be grateful that we had the opportunity to join today, right?
We're always grateful, especially to see you, Aaron. I really appreciate your contributions every time. Beautiful. And the glasses. Aaron, everybody's talking about your glasses. For sure. I love it. Okay, guys, we want to send you off into an amazing weekend. And I'm so thankful that you're here, that you gave us your time. We pray it was not worth it, and hold tight, because if it wasn't worth it, we want to hear from you. Michael's going to send you guys a survey, and we want the feedback, because the better we become, the more value we hope we can share. So, Michael, anything else? Any parting thoughts for this week?
Well, just part of this, as we're talking about gratitude, is very much related to what we celebrate here in the United States of Thanksgiving, the giving of thanks for what we're doing. And just like Christmas, just like Valentine's Day, it doesn't just need to be one day of the year. And it's what a lot of us are really talking about here, is being thankful and sharing that appreciation with other people. It's a game changer. When people know that you appreciate them, they show up. And it's a practice. It's not, at least for me, something that only comes on whenever I've got, something to fight against. So that's really kind of the message that I wanted to bring for this is, if you want to share that you love someone, don't wait to February 14th. If you want to share a gift with someone, you don't need to wait till Christmas or another holiday that triggers that kind of responses. You change the world by the little things you do every single day. So thank you for showing up for us. I'm thankful that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Okay, guys, beautiful. Love you guys. And we want to see you next month. And thank you. Just thank you. Fuzzy socks, people, fuzzy socks. Bye-bye.